Dear students, history of library automation actually spanned over 5 decades. It started in the year 1970 with the advent of personal computer. Then over the last 5 decades, 70 to 2020, we are basically progressing or moving forward. Now, before starting, the actual deliberation on history and development of library automation, let me share a very interesting story with you. The whole process of automation, I am not talking about library automation, the whole process of automation in the society started on the basis of an idea coined by a library professional, Dr. John Shaw Billing. Dr. John Shaw Billing, in the decade of 50s, early 50s, he was the then chief librarian of Census General Office of US. He coined the idea of machine related processing of huge amount of census data, and in that particular organization, US Census General Office, one young clerk was also working, Herman Hollerith. Herman Hollerith was moved by the idea. Later on, he left US General Office and started a new company, and later on that particular company evolved as IBM, and you all know the contribution of IBM in the history of advancement of computing. Now, in the decade of 70s, early 70s, IBM actually marketed one low cost personal computer, and right from that particular point of time, library professionals started thinking to apply and implement this kind of machines in managing bibliographic records. So, the history of library automation started in the decade of 70s, you can say 71, 72. Now, let us go to the presentation mode. The topic of deliberation is here, evolution of library automation, a saga of 5 decades. So, in this particular class or video tutorial, we are going to check the history and development, origin and development of library automation process. Now, before entering into details, let me explain one particular thing, that the entire software family can be divided into two groups, system software and application software, and you all know that. System software are like operating systems, your translators, emulators, simulators, these are all called system software, required for running the system or overall management of the system. Now, another group is called application software. Application softwares are basically meant for a specific kind of job. For example, if you suppose you want to type a letter, so you are using a word processing software, it can do only word processing. So, that is a particular software meant for a particular task. This kind of softwares are called application software. There are many other examples like spreadsheet, MS Office, then Open Office. In case of specific group of office. Similarly, in the open source domain, you have Open Office or LibreOffice Writer, LibreOffice Calc, and many more like database management system, multimedia tools, and many other things. So, library automation is also an application software. It's meant for managing day-to-day activities of a library of any type of size. Now, if you look into into a library of any type of size, all libraries of the world, irrespective of their collection size, irrespective of their nature of service, they all can be divided into two groups from the system point of view. One is the operational subsystem, another is the administrative subsystem. Now, a library automation software can handle or can provide good input to manage both the major systems of a library of any type of size. Operational subsystem is basically meant for housekeeping operation like acquisition, like cataloging, circulation, interlibrary roll, serials control, and day-to-day maintenance of a library automation package. Now, you all know that a library automation package has basically two interfaces. One is for the staff, through which we conduct different kind of housekeeping operation. Another is information retrieval. Now, through information retrieval, we are basically providing our end users access to the library materials, library collection, different kind of interfaces, so that our users can interact with the library system. So the major or the most visible interface is OPAC, online public access catalog. Now OPAC actually again underwent different kind of progression from a standalone OPAC. We have we reached to LAN OPAC, then present generation is web OPAC, and the web OPAC is also progressing, and this is finally giving us integrated access from the single window search interface. Now these are the all activities related to operational subsystems of a library. Now operational subsystem produce lot many data and statistics. So administrative subsystem is basically handling with those kind of reports and statistics. Now a computer or a software like library automation software cannot take decision on behalf of you, but it can help you to take decision, to take informed decision on the basis of reports and statistics. So report again can be of two types: predefined report, already defined inside the library automation software, you don't have to do anything, you have to click and report will come. And another one is the customized report, so that you can generate your own kind of report, just like a Meccano set. You pick up different elements of your report and report will be prepared. Now you all know library trinity also: documents, users and staff. So there lies the role of the statistics. So all kind of statistics related to a document, that means what are the documents that are frequently used by end user, different kind of user related statistics, who are the topmost users of your library system, and different kind of staff related statistics: how many catalog a particular staff has performed in a given day, how many circulation he or she carried out. So this kind of data library automation software can generate in the form of report and statistics, and finally it is going to help us in our management information system, or MIS, so that we can plan and act accordingly, we can take different kind of decision. So this is the whole periphery of library automation software. It works in that way, and that's why it is very important for a library of any type of size, be it an academic library, be it a public library, be it a special library. This particular piece of software is very important, and this is the place from where the future benefit of a library will come. For example, if your library is not automated, when one fine morning you cannot have a digital library system. If your library system is not digitized, then you cannot have a virtual library system. So these are all steps wise process, and the very first steps towards digitization, towards virtualization of a library is library automation. Now ILS, as I told you that in this particular video tutorial we are going to discuss history and development of library automation. So it started in the year 1970, 71, 72 in fact, then it actually moving on and on. So we have 5 different generations of library automation software, and you can roughly you can say in each decade we have got a new generations of ILS, or library automation software. Library automation software, technically these are called ILS, integrated library systems. So it actually progressed through different 5 different generations. So let us talk about the future of different generations. Now in the first generation, you see first generation packages were PCML, those are non-integrated and non-portable. So that means those are hardware specific and software specific, and those are having modules, but there was little or almost no integration between the modules, because relational database management system was not there during the early 70s. Circulation module and cataloging module were the priority issues for these systems, and developed to run on specific hardware platform and proprietary operating system. So in the second generation, what happened, you see, the most important achievements of the second generation was that it became hardware and platform independent. So now system meant for hardware X can run also hardware OI, and that was a great movement because of the lot many platforms and lot many hardwares are coming. Here I mean platform as operating system. So second generation ILS has become portable, and Unix and DOS, this is the early 80s. Unix and DOS actually became the most favored operating system for these generations of library automation softwares. And again, if you talk about the integration, there was no or little bit of integration between the system, and those are command driven or menu driven system. So as a whole, we can say in second generation the real progress made by the library automation software was the quantum jump from platform specificity, from the hardware specificity to the platform independence and hardware independence. Unix and DOS become the most favored two operating system for this generations of library automation software. Hardly you can find any the instance of second generation software now, because now the all over the world including India, the prevailing generations are third, fourth and fifth. So these are the history. Now if we again go to the third generation actually things happening during the third generation development of library automation systems or ILSs. Now GUI started coming, graphical user interface, seamless integration between the modules became possible because of the advent of relational database architecture. So this is happening during the mid 80s or late 80s. So relational database management system actually started coming inside the market, and immediately the library automation software found the advantages, and they started adapting this kind of relational database modeling inside library automation packages. So as a result, what happened, it became fully integrated. So right from the third generation, we called all library automation softwares as integrated library system, because now because of the advent of relational database management system, now modules can be integrated seamlessly with each other. So that was a great achievement during the third generation. Other achievements are, as I said, graphical user interface and platform independency already achieved during the second generation. But another important thing happened in third generation is adaptation of global standards inside the automation package. For example, ISO 2709 developed in 1985 as Z39.2. Later on it adapted by ISO as it is and renamed as ISO 2709. So ISO 2709 bibliographic data exchange standard actually implemented in almost all available library automation software, and many other standards related to interoperability started coming inside the library automation system. So these are mostly client server architecture based systems. So LAN based OPAC was one of the major development in the third generation. So in case of third generation software, we can say that many major things happened. In the third generation, it became truly integrated library automation software, or ILS, basically integrated library system, because modules now can be seamlessly integrated on the basis of relational database architecture at the back end. Then graphical user interface. Previously in the first and second generation, it was first generation was command driven, second generation was menu driven, third generation become GUI driven or graphical user interface, and client server architecture became the norm of this generation. So lot many third generation software are still you can find in India and outside. For example, the most two popular commercial software in India, one is Sol, one is Libsys. Both are still belong to the third generation library automation system. Now in the fourth generation, another important thing happened. In place of the client server architecture, now we got web architecture. So inbuilt web based web OPAC or web enabled OPAC became the norm. It was become Unicode compatible, so that previously we can we can only handle English script, Roman script, rather English language document inside a library automation software. Now when it become Unicode compliant, all the regional language can be supported. So Unicode supports almost almost all scripts of the world, and it is very important for a country like India, where we are a multilingual country. We have 22 constitutionally recognized language in the 8th schedule. So Unicode become a great achievement in the 4th generation. Digital media archiving became the one of the feature of 4th generation ILSs. Digital media archiving allow us to attach the full text of a document, the video related to a document inside the library automation software. In the 3rd generation it was not possible. As it is based on web centric architecture, now library automation software became global, both for the end user, they can access Webpack from anywhere at any time, any point of time, and for the library professionals also. Suppose I am a library manager of a particular library, I have got the due credentials, so I can interact with my library automation software from my home by using different kind of web platform like a browser based system. Internet was the platform for this web enabled 4th generation ILSs. The present generation or the 5th generation library automation software is basically still in the experimental stage. This is happening in the first decade, started actually from the latter half of the first decade of 21st century, and still we are progressing. During the end part of this particular video tutorial, I am going to show you a live demonstration of 3 generations OPAC, 3rd, 4th and 5th. So in the 5th generation, what happened actually, it become web scale management and Ajax become the technology. Ajax stands for asynchronous Java and XML. So because of the advent of Ajax, we can now integrate seamlessly different external sources, different external data sets inside our library automation software. So OPAC become very rich. In place of dry marked 21 data, we can have cover page from Amazon, book preview from Google, and a full text display of the book inside the library OPAC, text analysis, all can be integrated inside a 5th generation library OPAC. Now it supports API, that means it can take data on the top basis of API from other sources, and it can give data to other software on the basis of API. Now different kind of softwares, open standard support started in 4th generation and became matured in 5th generation, like OAI PMH support in place of ISO 2709, ILS-DI support, whether an ILS can connect to a discovery service. Discovery service nowadays is very popular for academic libraries, which is acting as a single window search interface for all kind of resources. And rising of open source software and implementations of open standards are also remarkable feature of this particular generations. So as a whole, what we can say that in 5th generation, a few unique things are happening. One is the web scale management. Second is the cloud computing. So nowadays most of the library automation softwares are cloud hosted. That means these are available in 24/7, and from the library end, we don't have to think about server management, 24/7 mode, power management, and so on. So cloud computing is a welcome move in the 5th generation or the present generation. It become Web 2.0 compatible on the basis of Ajax technology, I already told you, and API based, and lot many standards it is now supporting. REST endpoints it is supporting now, OAI PMH it is supporting now. So it can take data from other software and other systems, and similarly it can give data to other software and system, and that too in real time. ILS-DI is one of the major breakthrough. REST endpoints are major breakthrough during this 5th generation of automation. Now improvements through generation, let us go for a comparative study through 5 different generations of ILSs. Now the progress of ILSs actually happened through 5 different generations, as I told you already, and these are functionalities. So different functions actually became rich and rich to richer. Enhanced user access to library resources in 24/7 mode, so that we can have access to our libraries in 24/7 mode. And this kind of pandemic situation through which we are passing, it become very important, so that we can provide the metadata as well as the full text of library resources inside our OPAC. It's facilitated different kind of new generation information services. Some existing services are improved, and some are completely new. And interactive user interfaces, so that now users can be considered as partner of the library, and different kind of interactivity is now supported. For example, users can donate tags to describe a particular resource. They can make they can post reviews, they can give likes, and many other things. And most importantly, for in the context of India, it now supported multilingual data processing, right from the cataloging to searching, everything. Now, if we consider the comparative study of 5 different generations of ILS, you can see here that in the first generation we are basically using low level language. In the second generation we started using COBOL, Pascal, C. This is the standard language. The third generation we started 4GL. Those who are little bit of acquainted with Foxborough or DBase, they know this kind of programming language. But the fourth generation library automation software started using OOPS, object oriented programming system, and fifth generation, as I said, switched over to AJAX technology, asynchronous Java and XML. Operating system, we have made progress from first to fifth generation through in-house operating system to vendor specific operating system. And Unix and MS-DOS became the operating systems in the third generation, for the third generation ILSs. Then fourth generations, we have different flavor of Linux like Ubuntu, Debian, etc. All are open source. Even and Windows NT technology, your Sol and libsys are based on Windows NT technology. And fifth generations are completely going towards the different kind of Linux distribution, mainly Debian based packages. So data model, we started from non-standard, then achieved hierarchical and network data model in the second generation. For example, our CDS software was based on network model. Then third generation actually really made great progress by utilizing relational database management system at the back end, and entity relationship model was the norm. And the latest model, bibliographic data models like FRBR, FRAD, all are considered as ER data model or entity relationship data model. The fourth generation took a step ahead, object oriented bibliographic data model. And in the fifth generation, we are started getting library automation software which are actually supporting practically FRBR, FRAD, FRSAD, BibFrame, this kind of bibliographic data model in place of the flat data model like ISBD. Import export was none in case of first generation, limited in case of second generation. But from the third to fifth generation, it really become very interesting, standard based. So third generation was ISO 2709 based, fourth generation fully supporting different kind of interoperability including ISO 2709 and VoIP image, and fifth generation now supporting different kind of real-time integration through ILS-DI, REST endpoints, etc. Now, if we move to the next group of comparative study, how different kind of modules are integrating with each other. You see here in the first generation integration was limited. Second generation little bit integration took place, particularly between the cataloging modules and circulation module. Third generation it become fully integrated because of the advent of backend relational database management system. Fourth and fifth generations are actually supporting this full integration, full connectivity across the web, and fifth generation supporting another important factor, it is called linked open data. So that now if a data set is available in the form of linked open data, that particular data set we can integrate inside our local ILS to get the advantage. One example I can tell you that The entire Library of Congress subject heading list is now available as a linked open data, and we can easily integrate that inside our library system. The entire name authority file is presently available via virtual internet authority file that can be integrated inside our library automation software. So for example, when I am trying to enter the name of a given author, that can fetch data, the actual data, and the data utilized by different national libraries for the name of that particular author can automatically I can automatically snatch that inside my local library system. So standard support, these are all based on the different kind of standard support. So library automation software or ILSs, we started with limited or proprietary standard. In the fifth, fourth and fifth generation, it's completely based on the open standards like OIPMH, like ILSDI, like REST endpoints, like EDIFACT. So this kind of open standards are supported nowadays. COIN, it is now supported. OpenID, it is supported. So all kind of standards are getting support from different fourth to fifth generations of library automation packages. Portability from nil to we have achieved complete portability across Windows and Linux, across different browsers, across different platform, across different hardware. Complete interoperability we achieved through first to fifth generations of packages. Now, if we go to inside the features of the of this five generations of ILS, you can see here report generation. It was limited fixed format. Limited in the sense of you can take up limited fields, and statistics was also a minor level. But second generation we started from unlimited fields to moderate statistics. But if you go through the third, fourth and fifth generation, we have achieved complete freedom at the level of report generation, at the level of statistics generation. Third party tools can be integrated, and all kind of statistical support can be achieved. Now media up to second generation there was none. Third generation it was limited media support, but fourth and fifth generation all digital formats are supported, and you can integrate any of the attached media in the form of video, in the form of full text, in the form of audio. You can now attach with a book inside your library automation software. Capacity also increased from limited to unlimited. From third generation onwards, we can now handle unlimited number of user, unlimited number of documents, and unlimited number of staff with privilege control inside the library automation system. Module integration, as I said repeatedly, that we beginning integrated library system from third generation. So module integration become seamless during the third generation, and now it is completely based on REST API endpoints. Architecture, we moved from standalone architecture to shared architecture. In the third generation we achieved client server architecture. Fourth generation was web centric architecture, and fifth generation is multi-tenancy architecture. That means most of the library automation softwares are nowadays cloud compatible, and the futuristic library automation software like Qualiole, then Folio, these all will be based on cloud architecture, or right from the beginning it will be cloud compatible. Interface, we started with the command driven system, so you can interact in the first generation. Users or staff can interact with the system through different kind of commands, mostly Unix commands. Then we came to the menu driven system. If some of you can remember the CDSIS package, it was a menu driven system. Then icon driven system or graphical user interface started coming during third generation because of the client server architecture. Now from the fourth and fifth generation, it is completely based on web architecture and completely multimedia compatible and GUI. User supports also increased from single user, that means a standalone machine, to unlimited concurrent users in the fifth generation. So now any number of users you can handle in for your library fourth generation or fifth generation library automation packages, which are mainly web based entities. So if we go through the some other very important features like multilingual support. So first, second and third generation actually provided limited amount of support to multilingual documents. Third generation we actually beginning to adopt Unicode, but fourth and fifth generation become completely matured. Now different kind of virtual keyboard we can implement, different kind of index script, including some of the obsolete script like Brahmi, Khoroshti, all now are supported. External source integration up to third generation it was very poor, but fourth and fifth generation, particularly fifth generation, is supports full integration with all kind of external data sets, including cover page, reviews, then book preview, and many other things. I will be showing you, I will be trying to show you that how fourth and fifth generation is different from the third generation. Now discovery and federated searching still very limited up to fourth generation, but fifth generation, because of the advent of some of the open standards like ILSDI, integrated library system, and discovery interface, so it can provide data in real time to discovery interface, and discovery interface can integrate all retrieval silos in an academic library in a single window search box like Google like search interface, and at the same time it is opaque like elegant. And it is also providing support for federated search and query forwarding mechanism. So distribution mode, that how these particular softwares are available, mainly first generation was in-house, second generation was proprietary, third generation was also proprietary mostly, but the fourth and fifth generation open source is taking a lead. So most of the global scale big library automation softwares are now available as open source. For example, Koha and other 14 library automation softwares are available as open source. Two of the futuristic library automation software like Qualiole and Folio will be available as open source. So open is the future for library automation software packages. Now let us go for a live demonstration of the progress of OPAC from different generations. Now here you see this is a simple fourth generation OPAC, non-integrated with any kind of external data source. People can or user can directly search here, and they can have different kind of documents they can retrieve. But you see here a fourth generation OPAC. I am switching to the next step. Now this fourth generation OPAC is basically not anymore a very simple kind of search and retrievals interface. It can integrate data from different kind of external sources. Here you can see the newly acquired book, it can display automatically. All of these cover pages are coming from Amazon, and user at any point of time they can switch over that books acquired recently to what are the new books available in general shelf. If I click, it will now interact with my system and try to display that what are the new books available in that particular shelf. So this kind of advanced level features are now available. Now if I search here on something, say library, you see here in real time how it is going to give you different kind of typical opaque data sets, as well as it can link with different kind of other services, external services linked with the library system. So as I am trying to show you live, it may take a little bit of time to fetch data. So it is now trying to connect different kind of external sources or the books available in the library. So let it work. Let us now move to the fifth generation library OPAC. In the fifth generation, okay, it came. So you see here, so on the basis of library, it it actually retrieved 33 results available inside my local library, and here you see it is trying to fetch what are the other related documents on library are available from openlibrary.org. So this kind of real time linking with different other external sources available, and here you can see these all kind of cover page images are coming. None of these cover page images we have scanned and uploaded, all are coming from Amazon or Google. Now let me click any one of these. Say for example I am clicking the first one, best practices for corporate libraries. Now the details of this particular book will be displayed, how many copies are available, which copies are actually in the loan, and when it will be due, everything it can fetch alongside the cover page image. Now user can make a comment, you can see how many copies are available, they can rate a particular book. So this all supporting interactive nature of fourth generation packages. And I can place a hold as a user, I can save record, I can click more searches, so that say for example on which other places like WorldCat, INCAT, Google Scholar, the details of this book available. So this is the example of a fourth generation package, library automation OPAC. And in the fifth generation, many interesting things happened. Here you see, here I retrieved a particular book just like in the fourth generation package, but apart from the fourth generation packages, it can show me holding just like a fourth generation package, one particular book copy is available. Then user can click on the title notes to know different kind of notes associated with this great book written by Mahatma Gandhi, you all know. Holdings and title notes are also feature of the fourth generation, but what can we do within the fifth generation package? You see here, I can, if this particular book is available as in open access, that's been copyright free, my system can automatically detect that from where it is available, and it can display me the actual book. So the user can either download, they can print, or they can read here just like a Kindle. So I can browse. So this is the title page, and any point of time I can go to any page. Say I want to go to the copyright page, so it automatically it will take me to the copyright page. Now I want to go to the table of content pages, it can take me automatically to the table of content pages. I can search inside this particular document in the full text level. I can take a printout, I can save as a PDF, and these are all available. This particular is document I am getting from Gandhi Heritage Portal. So my fifth generation package, which I am using here, Koha, can fetch that from where it is available, and it can fetch data automatically inside my OPAC so that user can read it. But other interesting features of this system is that I can also go for different kind of other system. So it's coming from Gandhi Heritage Portal. Now suppose, and in the OPAC itself it can tell me that this particular document is available from Gandhi Heritage Portal. Now I can click it. Already we have seen how books are displayed. Now here I am going to show you other two features associated with fifth generation. Say an external service like text analysis I can integrate here. Now suppose if I click the text analysis button, it can automatically take that particular PDF file and tell me what are the most important terms utilized in this particular document. I can always increase the number of term or term context. So suppose this term context is presently 285, so I can again increase it. So now suppose I am going to it. So different tools we can go for it, like this is one, this particular system is called term circus, but we can also fetch different kind of frequency, phrase frequency, term context, term links, etc. Different other services are available. Now if we go to the next step, it's a very interesting one. So in real time it can go through the document, and in my experience with truth, in this particular document Gandhiji talked about many places and his movement, so it can real time it can fetch data. Say for example, if I place in Mumbai, so it can show me that Gandhiji moved from Mumbai to where in real time. So in the you see here Rajkot to Bombay, So here Rajkot to Bombay, it will in real time it will give. So if we keep it slightly as it is basis, then when there will be a long journey, you can understand it. So now you see it is going from Bombay to London. So it fetched a particular line, it is actually going from Bombay to London, and on the global scale map it can draw the picture. Now if I say from South Africa Gandhiji moved from where to where, if I click in a particular place, so it can show me that in this particular document different kind of place names, how these are associated with it. So these are all great thing happening in library automation software, and many more interesting things are coming. This kind of integration, this kind of linking, this kind of rich user interface became possible because of open source software, open standards and open access resources. So that's all for this particular video tutorial, and we will be moving towards the next. Thank you very much.